They said he was too small, too weak, a defensive liability, but in the world's most famous arena, Trae Young didn't just prove them wrong. He turned their doubt into his greatest weapon. This is how the story of a 6'1" guard from Oklahoma became one of basketball's most electrifying stars. Before the swagger, before the shimmy celebrations and logo threes that would become his trademark, Trae Young was a skinny kid from Norman, Oklahoma, who many thought was too small to make it big. Standing barely 6 feet tall in a sport dominated by giants, Young's story begins like many others, in a family where basketball wasn't just a game, but a way of life. Born to Candace and Rayford Young in September of 1998, Trae's basketball education started early. His father, who had played professionally in Europe, understood the challenges his son would face. Growing up in Norman, Oklahoma, Young's path wasn't always smooth. While his father played overseas, Trae was raised by his mother and paternal grandparents, developing a work ethic that would become legendary in the halls of Norman North High School. This is where we saw the first glimpses of both his incredible potential and the limitations he would need to overcome. His high school statistics tell a story of relentless improvement, from 25 points per game as a sophomore to an astounding 42.6 points per game in his senior year. But these numbers came with a criticism. Was he just a volume shooter? Was he too ball dominant? These questions would follow him throughout his career, but Young used them as fuel. In the gyms of Norman North, Young developed his signature style, a combination of long-range shooting and crafty playmaking that often left defenders bewildered. The transformation from Trae Young to Ice Trae began here, in these high school games where he learned to embrace being the smallest player on the court. He developed a fearlessness that would serve him well in the years to come, along with a flair for the dramatic that would make him both beloved and criticized throughout his career. By the time he finished high school, Young had evolved from a promising prospect into a 5-star recruit. The University of Oklahoma campus buzzed with anticipation in the fall of 2017. Their hometown hero Trae Young had chosen to stay local despite offers from basketball powerhouses across the nation. But no one, not even the most optimistic Sooners fans, could have predicted what was about to unfold. Young's college career began modestly enough, 15 points and 10 assists in his debut against Omaha. But like a storm gathering strength, the performances that would follow reshaped college basketball's landscape. By December, he was no longer just a promising freshman, he was a phenomenon. His 43-point outburst against Oregon announced his arrival on the national stage, drawing comparisons to Steph Curry that would define him and haunt him for the rest of his career. The numbers were staggering: 27.4 points and 8.7 assists per game, making him the first player in NCAA history to lead the nation in both categories. But these statistics tell only part of the story. Young's style was revolutionary, pulling up from the logo, threading impossible passes, and playing with a swagger that energized teammates and enraged opponents. Yet this meteoric rise came with its share of criticism. As defenses adjusted, focusing their entire schemes on stopping Trae, Young's efficiency suffered. His turnover numbers soared, and questions arose about his shot selection. By January, scouts noted his poor individual defense, a criticism that would follow him to the NBA. The Sooners, after a strong start, began to struggle, leading some to question whether Young's spectacular individual play was truly conducive to team success. Despite these challenges, Young's impact on college basketball was undeniable. He garnered praise from NBA superstars like LeBron James and Steph Curry, while transforming Oklahoma games into must-watch events. His combination of scoring and playmaking was changing perceptions of what a point guard could be. June 21st of 2018 would become a pivotal moment in NBA history, though few realized it at the time. The Atlanta Hawks, in a move that would be debated for years to come, traded away the rights to Luka Doncic for Trae Young and a future first-round pick. The pressure was immediate and intense. Not just the normal expectations faced by a top-5 pick, but the added weight of being forever linked to one of the most talented young players in NBA history. Young's rookie season was a study in contrast. His first few months were marked by spectacular highlights mixed with brutal shooting slumps. Critics pounced on his efficiency numbers, questioning whether his college success could translate to the NBA level. His defense became a target, with veteran guards often seeking him out in mismatches. But as the season progressed, something changed. Young began to adapt, showing the basketball IQ that would become his hallmark. His pre-All-Star break struggles gave way to a post-break surge that offered a glimpse of what was to come. By season's end, his averages of 19.1 points and 8.1 assists had earned him a place on the All-Rookie First Team, sharing the honor with Doncic. The comparisons to Doncic would persist, with every Young achievement measured against his draft night counterpart. But in Atlanta, Young was building something unique. not just a statistical profile, but an identity for a franchise in need of direction. If Young's rookie season was about proving he belonged, his sophomore campaign was about proving he could dominate. The 2019-20 season saw Young elevate his game to new heights, posting eye-popping numbers, 29.6 points and 9.3 assists per game. These weren't just good numbers for a young player, they were historic figures that put him in elite company. Yet the narrative around Young remained complex. While his offensive brilliance was undeniable, questions about his impact on winning persisted. The Hawks struggled in the standings, and critics pointed to his defensive limitations and high usage style. A February 2020 Bleacher Report article even named him the worst defensive point guard in the NBA, but focusing solely on these criticisms would miss the bigger picture. Young was revolutionizing the point guard position in his own way. The 2021 NBA playoffs proved that Trae Young had transformed from statistical marvel to playoff performer. His postseason debut against the New York Knicks was theater. The numbers were impressive, 32 points, 10 assists, and a game-winning floater that silenced the Garden. But it was his demeanor, the shimmy before a three, the bow after the winner, the embrace of the villain role, that announced the arrival of a different kind of NBA superstar. Young joined LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Derrick Rose as the only players to score 30 points and 10 assists in their playoff debuts. The Hawks' run to the Eastern Conference Finals wasn't just about Young's individual brilliance. It was about a young star learning to balance his scoring prowess with leadership, knowing when to take over and when to elevate his teammates. His 48-point masterpiece in Game 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks showed he could deliver on the biggest stage, even as a foot injury would ultimately derail the Hawks' championship hopes. While that playoff run showed Young could perform on the biggest stage, what followed would reveal something even more impressive: his ability to evolve. As the game changed around him, Young was about to show a new dimension to his already impressive arsenal. His 7 consecutive games with 30-plus points and 10-plus assists tied Oscar Robertson's 59-year-old record, highlighting his unique combination of scoring and playmaking ability. But perhaps more telling than the numbers is the maturity in his game. Young's shot selection, while still aggressive, has become more measured. His understanding of when to probe defenses and when to facilitate has reached new levels. Even his much maligned defense, while still not a strength, has shown signs of improvement through better positioning and effort. Yet challenges still remain. His shooting efficiency has dipped, particularly around the rim, possibly affected by a lingering Achilles issue. The Hawks team's success has been inconsistent, leading to questions about whether Young's style of play, brilliant as it can be, is conducive to championship basketball. As we watch Trae Young's career unfold, we're witnessing more than just the development of a basketball player. We're seeing the evolution of the modern point guard position. His willingness to take and make shots from anywhere on the court, combined with his elite playmaking ability, has forced defenses to adapt and inspired a new generation of players. Critics will point to his defensive limitations and occasional shooting inefficiency. Supporters will highlight his historic offensive production and ability to elevate teammates. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in between. What's undeniable is Young's impact on the game. Whether you love or hate his style, you just can't ignore it. At just 26 years old, Trae Young's story is far from complete. His legacy will ultimately be determined not just by statistics or individual accolades, but by his ability to lead Atlanta to championship contention. One thing is for certain: in an era of basketball defined by innovation and skill, few players have pushed the boundaries of what's possible quite like Ice Trae. But hey, that's just my take. We want to hear from you. Is Trae Young changing the game for better or worse? Leave us a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're always breaking down the biggest stories and trends in the NBA, and you won't want to miss our future videos. And while you're at it, smash that bell icon too. That way you'll be notified as soon as we drop new content, and trust me, with how quickly things change in the NBA, you'll want to stay up to date. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.